Do video games affect the youth in today's society? Should the government have the power to regulate violent video games? If games do have an effect on the people who play them, that effect would be widespread. Most young people play video games. Chris Cron, the owner of Retro Games Plus, explains that video games are popular with people of all ages.
The most demographics that we get for people buying games, I would say, are probably in their 20s. We get a fair amount of college students that come through. So I would say the most would probably be 25 to 30. We do get a lot of average gamers. It's people that come in just looking and asking for questions about what is good gameplay, what can they spend, a couple hours playing, and basically just enjoy it. Probably looking for a beatable game or something that's going to give them a fair amount of gameplay. The games that probably sell the best are, we sell a lot of the old stuff, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, probably the most of that. And as far as genres within that, probably sell mostly role-playing games, RPGs, a lot of side action RPGs. We do sell a fair amount of just general shooting games.
Gunther Luth, a junior at Common Ground High School, considers himself a pretty typical gamer.
There is a game that is advanced from when I was little, like it's grew so much. There's a lot that you can do in video games, you can control a lot, they made it more realistic. I get really angry and I take my stress out on video games, killing people and stuff, which is bad to say, I know, but...
Brianna Johnson, also a junior at Common Ground, has been gaming for many years and plays a variety of games in her spare time.
On a weekly basis, I play around 40 to 50 hours. I mostly like the games where you go on like a big adventure or the horror and bloody stuff. Grand Theft Auto and Left 4 Dead.
Although both Brianna and Gunther see video games as a form of entertainment, some games were designed to do more. Professor O'Donnell, who teaches game design at Worcester Polytech, elaborates.
In my social issues course, we look at a game called Super Columbine Massacre RPG, which is a documentary satire where you play as the Columbine killers. You may not be feeling good about, feeling that lighthearted, I'm playing. You are exploring a space, you are doing what the game requires you to do, not because that's fun, but because you want to see what comes next. Much like a book or a film that deals with serious issues, a heavy drama as a movie doesn't necessarily need to be fun. I don't think anyone would say Schindler's List was fun, but it was an important film and people should see it.
Not all games are as controversial as Super Columbine, but can even more lighthearted games have serious consequences for players like Brianna and Gunther? Dr. Desai, who studies psychiatry at Yale University, recently conducted a study that explores this possibility.
There are gender differences in problem gaming between girls and boys. So boys are more likely to game in general than girls. They're also more likely to develop a problem. So there's gender differences in the risk of this happening, but once the problem sort of develops, they look much more like each other, especially in terms of other kinds of things they might be doing, smoking, drinking, grades, that sort of thing. There is a slight difference in that girls tend to be older.
Age is an important factor in this equation. The Entertainment Software Ratings Board uses an age-based guideline to regulate the sale of video games.
ESRB is a ratings board. It's a totally voluntary ratings board supported by the industry itself. The idea from it came from the MPAA, the Motion Picture Association of America. They also have a ratings board. And the idea is not to censor, but to classify.
The ESRB ratings function best with strong parental involvement. Brianna's mother explains her vision of a parent's role.
In my opinion, the parent's role should be just knowing what their child is watching, or what they're playing with, knowing how limit the time if they can, and to spend time just to figure out, okay, what are they really looking at, just what they're doing.
Another concern is that video games may affect students' performance in school.
I do not play video games. I feel like in general, like people who spend a lot of time playing video games probably need a lot of stimulation. I remember in particular one time last year when a new popular game was coming out that several of my kids were very tired because they stayed up all night playing it. There are a lot of violent games out there, and I tend to wish the kids didn't play such violent games.
I actually played video games this morning before school,
Okay.
between 5 and 6 a.m. Playing video games can influence the work that comes from students. I notice sometimes different usernames that I know belong to certain students, and certain consoles will tell you when the last time that person logged on. And you can do some simple math and discover that there are students that were on as late as 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, things like that during the week.
Perhaps the most disturbing possibility is that violent video games may encourage violent behavior in youth.
There has been some research that would suggest that violent video games can lead to aggressive behavior.
In 1994, Senator Lieberman led a campaign to increase regulation of violent video games that culminated in the creation of the ESRB.
Isn't making a game and selling it that encourages a kid to point a gun at a television set and rewards his success or her success by increasing the firepower of the gun, encouraging criminality? I mean, we're all aware of this incredible outbreak of gun violence in our country. Is it responsible?
In reality, the connection between violent games and violent behavior is not clear-cut.
Over many, many studies, there really isn't a lot of evidence that violent games cause aggression. Kids who are attracted to the more mature and the more violent games are also the kids who are more likely to be violent. So it's an independent association. One is not causing the other.
Some even believe that video games have positive effects.
I see over and over again students who come in who want to tell unique, interesting, new stories through the gaming medium. Games change lives. I see it every day.
For video game makers, the ESRB is a fact of life. But is self-regulation enough? Have we reached a point where the government needs to step in and censor?
Again, I'm not opposed to those ESRB ratings. I think they do have a benefit. So I don't think it would affect sales. I think it would just maybe keep some of that age group that's 13, 14, 15 from playing those games.
ESRB ratings are probably useful to parents as a guideline. I would tend to want to leave it at that.
Most people don't know this, but in 1954, there were Senate subcommittee hearings on how comic books cause juvenile delinquency. I don't think anyone would argue that comic books cause much of anything nowadays. Anytime a new medium comes in, children are the first to adopt it because everything is new to a kid. Adults worry about kids all the time. That seems to be what we do. Oh my God, what are the kids doing with this newfangled thing? Is it bad for them? I don't know. I don't even know how that thing works.
I would say there's not enough evidence that gaming is a public health threat for the government to get involved.
In a democracy, the power ultimately lies with the people. You have to make your own informed decision about your government's involvement with video games.